Do you remember in the good old days, about like 6 months ago, when there was a discussion about the Labour government bringing in backdoor blasphemy laws that haven't existed in the UK for decades? And the Free Speech Union posted this. I don't think they knew how fast it was going to go downhill. We mustn't let blasphemy laws return via the back door. An official definition of the phobia will hinder the police getting on with their job. General Secretary of the Free Speech Union, Lord Young, says, "We have to put the government on notice and won't hesitate to bring legal action if it rolls out an official definition of the phobia." Well, you'll be pleased to know that, definition or not, what we've been talking about for years has already been ruthlessly enforced by the state with an iron fist. So whether or not they say that they're using an official definition, the much vaunted two-tier justice system that now 100% exists in full in the United Kingdom is basically enforcing this, whether or not they want to publicly tell you there's a definition. Because today there was yet another example, a glaring example, of why at this point the state are more than happy to lock you up if you are merely a little bit critical of the most aggressive and violent religious ideology on planet Earth. And don't come at me with any pinko nonsense about what about Christianity, what about the 4B2s, what about the Sikhs. It isn't even close. I mean, you can discount 9/11 and 7/7 and Mumbai and Beslan and the Bataclan and all the biggest incidents. Even with all of that discounted, the amount of death caused by that cult in the Middle East and Africa, as we speak, by the likes of ISIS and ISIL and Boko Haram, is off the charts. We don't even bother counting those casualties, because frankly, we've got more important things to worry about. You know, exploding pop concerts on English soil, for example. But let me just get to the story of the day, because this will enrage and delight you at the same time, I'm sure. Enrage, because obviously you've got common sense, and delight, because I'm sure you're as chippy as me and you like being proved right all the time. It is odd to me that the elites are wrong all the time and the plebs are right all the time. That's quite strange, that, isn't it? What use is an expensive Oxbridge education if it just makes you thick as shit? So this one's doing the rounds today. English father, 32, jailed for 30 months for chanting, "Who the F is Alan?" at a protest. Yes, at this point, quips, using a mildly clever rephrasing of an old Chubby Brown song, will get you sent to prison. Yeah, and if you're wondering who the fella on the right is, just to drive the point home, he was at the same protest. And he was throwing bricks at people. But because he's got a little bit of a tan and he's very, very interested in Alan, he got let off with a suspended sentence. It happens so frequently at this point, it's almost boring talking about it. But I'll read you it out of morbid curiosity all the same. It's on Yahoo News and Birmingham Live and a few other platforms, but I'm going to cover it on the Noticer simply because there's less annoying pop-ups and adverts. Stories from today says a non-violent protester has been jailed for 30 months for chanting "Who the F is Alan?" during an anti-immigration demonstration last year, just weeks after a regular at the snack bar who threw bricks during the same clash was given a suspended sentence. Nathan Poole, a 32-year-old father, pleaded guilty to violent disorder after being charged for shouting during the protest in Hadley. Charged for shouting? Is that against the law now? If that's illegal, there's about 30 million mother-in-laws across the country that need locking up as well, isn't there? I guess it's only illegal as long as you're not the third or the fourth or the fifth mother-in-law, you know, because your culture allows you to have more wives than spare sets of flip-flops. The protest was in Hanley-Stoke-on-Trent on August 3rd last year, where counter-protesters launched a series of vicious attacks on the British demonstrators. But despite not carrying out any violent acts, Poole was sentenced to 2.5 years behind bars on Monday by woke sparrow-boned activist judge Richard McConaughey, who called him bullish. What does that mean in this context? Bullish? I doubt he's talking about stock trading, so I'm assuming he means the guy's stubborn because he feels like he hasn't really done anything wrong. And he hasn't, has he? Because back when the world was saying there was nothing wrong with being critical about very, very old, ancient books of desert scribblings that not everybody in the world actually bothers paying any attention to. He also had to go at him because he said he showed hostility to said very, very old book of desert fables. Poole was jailed despite another rioter who loves the snack bar, Hassan Iqbal, being given a suspended sentence in the same court after pleading guilty to the same charge. But the Judge Graham Smith said that he was throwing bricks at rival protesters and police, but it was out of character. Judge McConaughey previously jailed another protester, former police officer James Fernandez, to 28 months for kicking police shields on the same day, and earlier this month opted not to jail a pervert who groomed a 13-year-old for sex. Brilliant. Days after that, he jailed 32-year-old Eritrean immigrant Nat Ainel Tekle. I mean, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that one. I'd have to, even if I fed that into AI, I don't think we'd get an answer. Tekle Manot. He's definitely a Geordie. I've heard that phrase in Newcastle before. Excuse me, mate. Can you tell me where the train station is, please? Tekle Manot. Cheers, Geordie. So yeah, he got 4 years, so he'll be out in 2 for surprise sexing a vulnerable 13-year-old girl who he lured into his house after finding her in the street, lost and crying. Unbelievable. And there he is there, fine, upstanding gentleman. Poole's trial heard that the tarmac company worker recorded the protest on his phone, chanted, "Who the F is Allah?" and "You were all kiddie fiddlers and scum," which, frankly, considering the Deputy Prime Minister used to shout that at Conservative MPs, you would assume was perfectly reasonable discourse in the United Kingdom. His lawyer, Martin Blewer, told the court there was no evidence that he was physically involved, he didn't attack the police, and he wasn't seen to throw any missiles. He also didn't damage any property. But the judge said he was an active participant, saying you accept your presence worsened the situation. So there you go. Brilliant. Love that. British justice at its finest. Shall I just sum up? Because, you know, some people like the Cliff Notes version, don't they? This fella will serve 2 years for violently surprise sexing. Think of that. 2 years. I think most of the public would be upset if he got out after 22 years. But I digress. 2 years for that, being a full-blown kiddie diddler. Fella on the right here, no jail time for throwing bricks at coppers and English people. But the fella on the left, because he paraphrased the Chubby Brown song, 2.5 years. And he won't get let out early, because they don't let him out early, do they? If you have the wrong opinions, you don't get let out early. So basically, the fella with the gegs on there, who merely made a quip critical of the now protected religion of the state, will end up doing more time in jail than this random foreign fella who jumped the bones of a 13-year-old girl. There you go. Makes loads of sense, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know where to start with that. Newsflash for anybody watching, you are allowed to criticise religions. Most of us have done it. Before the regulars at the snack bar turned up in the 80s and the 90s, many British people were critical of the church, especially the Catholic Church, when it transpired that if you were unlucky enough to be Irish, if you never got rogered by a Catholic priest, you were in the minority. Yeah, the only Irish kids who didn't get buggered by Catholic priests in the 80s were the particularly ugly ones. So this is where we're at. We spent decades aggressively criticising the Christian church. Richard Dawkins made a career off the back of it. Although that's unfair. He's a great writer and an educator. He didn't make a career off the back of it. But he certainly rose to public prominence off the back of it. Criticising it, rightly criticising it, because many of those ideas are from the Dark Ages and have no place in a modern society. And now we have the most conservative religious ideology by far. It's not even remotely close, especially in 2025. And the most conservative, aggressive, intolerant, homophobic, misogynistic, right-wing religious ideology being practiced in Europe now is openly being protected by the state. So Toby Young, he's about as much use as a nun's tits. What do you mean backdoor blasphemy laws? It's coming through the front door with its cock out. It's not come through the back door. It's there, it's active, everybody knows about it, and if you criticise it via the medium of some comedy song lyrics, they'll send you to prison for it for 6 months longer than the aforementioned foreign kiddie fiddler. That's where we're at. It's mental. And if you disagree, you've got a head full of horse shit. All right, that's me for the day. Ladies and gents, if you think I'm being intolerant and singing is definitely worse than violently kicking a little girl's back doors in, you let me know in the comments, please, so I can add you to the register, okay? Let me know what you think in the comments. It's mental. I can't believe how peaceful and reasonable the British public are. This has got to stop. The British government is openly hostile to the natives. I mean, we knew they were going to be. That's their ideology. Again, I'm sick of quoting Solzhenitsyn, so I won't bother. But the state is openly hostile. The police, the judges, the lawyers, the MPs, the House of Lords, the lot of them, they care more about fellas like this than polite criticism of their protected foreign ideology. Doesn't make any sense to me, but what do I know, eh? I didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Let me know what you think in the comments. Toodle pip. Cheers.